guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to talk today about dog fights. Now, this came up because we had someone come in the other day and they were, chatting about, or we were chatting about, our daycare. Because we run a daycare, and it's a different type of daycare where, it's not like this huge room of people going, like 100 dogs playing for 8 hours a day. But anyways, I was explaining like a big part of the difference of our daycare versus other daycares. And, they're like, well, do you have, like what happens with a fight? What do you do? And I realized that we've never had a fight. Now, as I say that, I'm looking for wood to knock on so that I can knock on wood. Because I know that, it's impossible to keep going forever. I shouldn't say impossible, but improbable to keep going forever and never have a fight, never have dogs, get into a big disagreement. But we don't, as a rule, we don't have fights. And there's a reason for that. And so I've been training dogs and doing, group work I've been doing group work for probably about 10 years. And when I say group work, that might mean, before I had a training facility, I might have 8 to 10 dogs at my house in training, and so, group work with them and things like that. And then we have had this facility with the daycare for almost 3 years. Like I say, 3 years of having a lot of dogs, and then previous to that, about 7 years of having a really good amount, usually 8 to 10 at the house at any given time and stuff like that. And so anyways, in all that time, like I say, we've never had like a full-on fight. Now, once or twice we've had a dog kind of bite at the kennel staff. Once actually, making contact and causing an injury. But we've had dogs like get into little scuffles and skirmishes and things like that, that are finished quickly, but never have we had a full-on fight. Now, so I wanted to talk a second on why that is, the things that go into us not having that problem. And so one of the, just so you can apply this to your life, your dogs, whatever you're doing, maybe you have a daycare, whatever. So we do a lot of what we call personality matching. So personality matching is things like, understanding, a dog who has a shy personality, or maybe a dog that has some reactivity issues. We're not going to put that dog with an annoying young dog, a dog that's going to be in his face. Or, 2 dogs that play super hard, probably not going to put them together. And so personality matching is a big thing. And whether you have a daycare or not, this is a big problem that a lot of people run into with their dogs, is they put any dogs together. They go to the dog park, they play with their dog's friends, they go camping, and they're just like, well, dogs are dogs, let's put them together. And like, think about that, for a second, and think like, where in the world that would ever work? Like, can you just put any people together and say, play, have a good time, see you later? Nope. Especially kids. Can you put any cats together? I don't know the answer there. But can you put any animal together? Like, there's always personality conflicts that come into place that you would have to be aware of. So personality matching is a big thing. Number 2, we don't allow super rough play. And this is a big deal, because what happens when dogs play super rough, now, when I'm saying super rough, I'm talking about stomping all over the place, barking like crazy, running like as fast as they can and doing circles like constantly and stuff like that. We simply just don't allow that. Because what happens when you allow that is number 1, the adrenaline goes up. And so when a dog's adrenaline goes up, they're now prone to make really bad decisions. So a dog that's a little anxious with high adrenaline might run off, or it might get aggressive. A dog that's confident with high adrenaline might get like hyper and annoying and play too rough and hurt somebody. A dog that's, aggressive and adrenalized. Anyways, so you take the dog's personality and add some adrenaline, you can be in a rough shape. Now, there's going to be adrenaline in a daycare setting. Dogs are going to play and they're going to have a good time. So there's going to be adrenaline, but when we don't allow it to escalate and get to these big, huge levels of play, then it's a big deal. The dogs don't get to this point to where they're thinking fight and aggression and things like that. So that's a big deal. And then I think the third thing, well, no, I'd say there's probably four things. The third thing that we do is outside of play, we insist on good behavior. We don't allow dogs jumping on people. We have dogs wait at doors. We don't allow dogs like pulling on the leash like crazy and stuff like that. And so like I say, there's rules outside of play. And then the last thing, like I say, is we do rotations. And so I've seen, at daycares where dogs play for 8 hours straight, or when people do play groups and they just let their, like play dates with their dogs, and they put two dogs in the backyard and let them play all day. Or like I say, go camping with friends and let their dogs play the whole time. Like that much play is so overstimulating. Like nearly every dog I've ever met that's been in the habit of 8 hours a day of like full-on daycare ends up with problems. Now, problems might be just like super hyper and irresponsible around other dogs, or aggression or things like that. And so we do what we call cycling. They cycle from play into rest, into play, into rest, and sometimes other activities like some training or walks, or sometimes stuff like that in between. But doing that, like I say, we've gone 3 years with no like legit fights, a fight that sends a dog to the vet or something like that. And again, I'm sure it's going to happen at some point, and I don't want to resign myself to that. We're going to continue to do everything that we do to make sure that the dogs are safe and happy and healthy and all that good stuff. And so far we've got an amazing track record of that happening, and want to continue that as long as possible. And I don't see any reason why we can't. The only thing that may stand in the way sometime is misreading a dog and misunderstanding a situation. And we humans are fallible. We make those mistakes, but we train our people well and teach them how to read things and teach them how to manage things. But if you can do those four things when you're talking about getting dogs in groups, however you're doing it, play groups, letting friends' dogs at the park, camping, however you do it, those four things are huge. And if you've got somebody that's not on those, so oftentimes people will say, all right, well, we're going camping and my friend's dog, like his dog's out of control. All right, you're not gonna, we have to do something about that. Not let our dog play with that, or keep them separate or whatever. Oh, well, that's not fun. Well, I know it's not fun, but like that dog's running around with knives, literally. Like the dog's teeth and nails, like you've got a dog running around with knives. And so let's say you're going to an event with kids, and like one of the parents is like, we gave our kid like a bunch of knives, and he runs around, he's irresponsible, and he's ill-behaved, but like, it's kids, they should be able to play. Like, that would be ridiculous. You'd be like, no, I'm not letting my kid around the other kid that has knives and has no impulse control. And it's the same with our dogs. Like, if I'm going camping and these guys don't have control over their dog, then I'm sorry, but my dog's not going to have a good time, or not going to have as good a time, because I'm going to keep them separate. There's no point in trying to force a square peg into a round hole and say, okay, this dog, these people don't fit what leads to solid dog interactions, but we're going to allow them to interact anyways. It's just, you're just asking for problems if you do that. You've got to manage scenarios better than that. So yeah, pay attention to those four things and you'll have way more success.